Hello there, I'm Corieburck and I'm your friendly neighborhood Yakima Realtor, and I am on a mission to make my life more simple and achieve financial freedom. Love to have you join me. Today we are talking about goals. I am a huge fan of goal setting, and much to my partner's chagrin, it is something that I spend a lot of time doing and revisiting over the course of a year. I am also a firm believer that if you write down and track your goals, you are much more likely to achieve them, as well as speaking them out loud. So that is what today's video is all about. Now, I won't be sharing all of my goals here for privacy reasons, but I will be sharing a few goals here on my plans for trying to achieve them. And my hope is that down in the comments, you will put some of your goals for this next year, and we can check in partway through the year and see how we're doing. And if your goal is to buy or sell a home this year, please email me at corieburck@gmail.com. and I will help you make that happen if you live in my local area, or I will help you be paired with one of my fabulous worldwide referral partners if you need someone for your local area. Our first goal is to pay off our HVAC system. We got a new heating and cooling system. This home, when we bought it, had the original, and it was quite old and in a state of disrepair. We were doing some pretty major repairs to it that were pretty costly. So we actually paid to update it, and it was quite expensive. It's a very expensive thing to do to replace the whole system. We also had a lot of antiquated elements to the system that needed to be updated. It wasn't just a matter of like switching out the unit. So it was a pretty big expense, and it is the first item in our debt snowball this year. We're putting every extra dollar towards it to try to get it paid off pretty quickly here. Getting closer. That is our first big item this year. Number two is I really want to fully fund my emergency fund. I'm trying to get to the point where I have 3 months of expenses in my emergency fund. You're going to see a little bit later why I'm not doing 6 yet. I'm starting off with 3 and putting a set amount towards it even without the HVAC. But once I pay off the HVAC, the next thing will be just to accelerate and get that paid up. Because we have a good amount in our emergency fund already, didn't feel the need to make this a first priority, but it is a second priority to make sure that happens. The next one is we want to work on paying off our CRV. I would like to have half of our CRV paid off this year. For those that don't know, because I don't think I've told this story, is we actually bought a brand new Honda CRV last year. My business did, and it was because my husband's car was no longer salvageable, and so I elected to give him my car, which is a 2018 Subaru Outback. I purchased a new car, a really great write-off for my business, but now I'm in the process of trying to accelerate the payoff of that. I don't like having a car payment, and it was unexpected for us to do it, so I'm gonna be working on paying that off. I'll probably pay off about half of it this year. That'll be the next snowball item after the emergency fund. Number 4, we need to get our pool repaired, resurfaced, and we are gonna do a couple of little upgrades to it. So our pool has been in pretty desperate need of some repair the last few years. Our pump went completely out at the end of last season. We actually closed our pool about a month earlier than anticipated because our pump went completely out, and it had been getting colder, and we were like, you know what, rather than replacing it now, we'll replace it at the beginning of next season. And we knew we were going to need to do the refinishing this year as well. So refinishing, we have a fiberglass pool. It has been painted before, and so all that needs to be removed. And then they're doing, essentially it's almost like a wax coating in it. They have to use like a flamethrower and like melt it down and then spread it evenly. So it's truly a refinish and not a paint. It really needs to be done on our pool. It will have style points too, but it really just needs to be redone for functionality and to prolong the health of our pool. I'm more than willing to give up things like vacations in order to have a pool at home where we live. It's very sunny most of the year, and we really make good use of it. And in order to make the best use of it, we also have a couple of other things that we're going to actually upgrade on the pool this year in order to make the most of it. One is doing an automatic safety cover, one of the kinds that we can just like flip the switch and it'll go on and off. Our current solar cover is very unwieldy and it's hard to do on my own. And honestly, most of the time I do need to be covering it and uncovering it on my own. So having the ability to flip the switch on and off means it'll actually get covered a lot more. And then we're also going to be adding a heater to the pool is the plan. We're still getting the quotes on all this. So the refinishing will for sure happen and the pump will for sure happen, but we'll see kind of on everything else, but I expect them to happen. Next is number 5. We're gonna fully fund my retirement at $7,000. I'm putting a set amount towards this every month, no matter what anyway, and that will actually become the next debt snowball item after the CRV. It's not really a debt snowball item, but it's gonna become a next major priority. Right now I'm just putting kind of like a minimum amount every month towards it, but I will do an accelerated fill up of it later in the year. Number 6 is I wanna read 6 finance or business books. I am a big reader. I usually read between 3 to 5 books a month, and but I do tend to lean more towards fiction or true crime. So one of my priorities this year is to read a few more business books and just set myself up to be the best business owner I can be. And so yeah, I have a goal around that. I'm tracking it on my wall. I tend to prefer finance books over business books, so we'll see where we end up on the year. At least have a couple of books lined up for that. And number 7 is actually want to read 12 plays this year. So I volunteer really heavily at my theater. My degree's in theater. I love it. But one of the things since leaving college is I have not been keeping up with reading different plays in different theater. And I am the chair of our play selection committee at my theater. And so it's very important that I'm reading stuff, and I'm reading the stuff that comes to the committee like as a suggestion by directors, but I'm not really reading anything other than that. So I want to read 12 plays this year. Plays are not a heavy lift. Usually you're sitting down reading them for an hour or 2 and you can get through them. So I just need to find the time to do those. But it's amazing how much I don't find the time to do this. I haven't even read a single one yet this year, and we're into March. So tracking it on my wall, and I'm going to be making that a priority. Number 8, to hire a video editor. So hello to my video editor who's on here, because I've actually already accomplished this one. They are fantastic. I'm using a company to help me do this. Last year I actually had a period where I filmed a video every day for 60 days, and I was, trying to compile them all into these like weekly vlog style videos. There are a couple on my page that I've managed to do, but what I realized was I didn't have the time or the skill to get the editing done, so they weren't making it up. So I have just like all this like backlog of videos, and then they weren't making it up, and I realized that my time is not best spent on that, because that's not where I'm most skilled, and I don't have the time to learn the skill. But what I could do is I could leverage that out to somebody else. So I still wanted to be able to bring the content, still wanted to be able to bring the education and bring myself to this space, but I just needed to find another way to do it. So therein came the video editor. But I've already accomplished this one this year, so check. Number 9 is I want to do 10 million in volume in real estate sales this year. I ended last year at about 9.2, and so this year I want to get to 10 million, and I know to achieve that I need to go on 21 listing appointments and 24 buyer consultations in the course of a year. So when I break it down that way, I mean, it's essentially 2 listing appointments and 2 buyer appointments per month, because you always round up, right? You don't do part appointments. So if I can do those, I will meet the goal for the year. So I'm really doing well so far this year. I'm tracking this on my wall, make sure I get there. But yeah, I'm trying to do 10 million in total real estate volume this year for my number 9. Number 10, I want to publish 24 YouTube videos this year. So I'm trying to get to 2 a month. I'm hoping that now with having a video editor to be able to do that portion of it, that this will get easier, because I just need to film the videos. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if I end up upping this goal to try to get to once a week for the rest of the year. Number 11, I want to get my business checking account to 3 months of salary and business expenses as a consistent holding point for that account. So what that means is that's one of the things that allows me to have a 3-month emergency fund, which will eventually get to 6 months, but right now I'm just concentrating on getting it to a 3rd month. And the business checking is basically like another layer of that. It's basically an emergency fund, but for my business, because it's a planned expense. In real estate, you're gonna have months where you don't make money, and you just need to plan for that. Now, it's not very often, and it's not very often I have 2 in a row where I'm not making money, but it's just something that having that there is this extra layer. It should be a plan for expense to need to carry the costs of my business even when I don't have income coming in. Number 12, I want to get in 52 workouts this year, so at least one workout a week. This is in alignment with some of my personal weight loss and mobility goals that I have. I'm tracking this on my wall, marking it off when I do a workout. I'm also supposed to get 120 grams of protein a day, which not really having a problem meeting, but as my appetite starts to shrink, it's getting a little bit harder, so we'll see. Number 13 is to get 6 massages in a year. This one may seem a little bit silly, but what I realized is all of my goals previous years before this year were really around production and sales and how do I do the most in my business. And one of the things that gets lost in that is the self-care, and that you actually are going to do better in your business if you're taking time to take care of yourself. So it's a good challenge to me to do 6 massages in a year, because first off, I enjoy them. They're fantastic. They're great. But it also forces me to unplug for at least a couple of hours. And that is actually always a really hard thing for me to do. I start to feel kind of itchy, and I am wondering what I'm missing, what calls I'm missing, what things could be going wrong in that time. And so it's really good exposure therapy for me to be forced to do that every other month. And eventually I'd like to get it up to once a month, once the budget allows for that. But I think 6 times this year is a really good goal, and really prioritizing myself with that. Number 14 is we want to have 12 date nights outside the house. So my husband and I, over the years, we are very, very busy professionals. We work really high hour jobs, and we also volunteer a lot. And, our schedules are not always in alignment. So in previous years, this has looked like the goal for this was like, oh, we need to have dinner at the table, not in front of the TV, at least once a week. And when we made that a goal, and we really focused on it, we got really good at it. And now that's something that kind of just happens naturally. We usually do have several meals a week, at our table, not in front of our TV. And now we're trying to kind of take that to the next level. And especially because our budget does allow for it more now, is have 12 outside of the house date nights that we schedule in a year. So our budget doesn't really allow for a weekly out of the house date night, but a monthly is good, and then the rest of them can be date nights at home. Number 15 is we want to book another trip to Mexico on points. Last year, I think it was November, we did a trip to Mexico completely paid for by points, just from our credit cards. We run all of our expenses through our credit cards. We never pay interest. We always pay them off in full. But we run all of our expenses through our credit cards, and we were able to pay for a trip completely on points. And it was so much fun. And it was at a time of year when I really needed a break. I didn't realize how much I needed it until we were there. And I was like, oh gosh, I actually really did need this. And my husband and I were talking while we were there, and I had, I think, 3 closings while I was there that week, and I had just set up my business that it could make those things happen even without me being physically present, and made sure to make it happen. And we both said, first off, that's really cool that we have the kind of life that we can design to still make sure things are turning even when I'm not present. We're starting to see the fruits of all that work. But on top of that, we said we want to do this every year. We want to have a vacation to get out of the cold, icky winter, and to go somewhere really wonderful and nice like Mexico, tropical, and to do it on points every year. And so that is going to be an ongoing goal for us, I think, is book a trip every winter, tropical trip on points. So if you haven't already, that is the end of this video. That's 15 of my goals for the year. I have a lot more than that, but those are the ones I kind of felt comfortable sharing. Go ahead and leave me a comment down below and let me know, what are your goals for the year? And don't forget, if your goal is buying, selling, or even getting into real estate as a career, go ahead and email me at corieburck@gmail.com, and the link will be down below as well. Thank you so much, and have a great day.